Ladies and gentlemen, when we are confronted with the question, why does a man seek you if he is married? We are not simply inquiring about infidelity. No, we are peering into the depths of the human soul, where the unconscious desires stir beneath the surface of moral structures. To understand this phenomenon, we must first recognize that marriage, though sanctified by society and religion, does not eliminate the complexity of the psyche. The human being is not a finished product at the altar. He is a becoming, a process of unfolding, driven by forces both conscious and unconscious. When a married man seeks another woman, it is often not merely for physical desire. It is the anima, the inner feminine, calling him towards something he believes he lacks. He does not always seek you, the person, but what you symbolize to his unconscious mind, a lost vitality, an untouched innocence, a part of his soul he has not integrated. This is not to excuse the behavior, rather it is to place it within the realm of psychological reality. The man may be fleeing his own shadow, the parts of himself he has disowned in the routine of domestic life. He may be seeking to reclaim freedom, passion, or youth, not through dialogue with his partner or with himself, but through projection onto another. In the realm of analytical psychology, the concept of the anima plays a central role in understanding male desire and inner conflict. When a married man seeks another woman, we must not hastily interpret this pursuit as a purely physical or conscious act of betrayal. Often, it is the unconscious at work, and specifically the projection of the anima onto an external figure. The anima, as I have described in my work, is the inner feminine aspect of a man's psyche. She is not a woman in flesh and blood, but an archetypal force, a psychological image that evolves over time through the man's experiences with women, mother, sister, lover, muse. She is deeply embedded within the unconscious and often acts as a mediator between the conscious ego and the deeper layers of the self. When a man becomes psychologically disconnected from this inner feminine, from feeling, intuition, sensitivity, and creativity, she does not disappear. Instead, she is projected outward, typically onto a woman who seems to awaken those lost or repressed qualities. Thus, when a married man is drawn to another woman, it is often not her he is responding to, but the qualities of his own soul that he sees reflected in her. She becomes, in effect, a mirror. This is the projection of the anima. She may symbolize mystery, emotional depth, youth, spontaneity, or a sense of freedom that has been buried beneath the duties and roles of daily life. The man is not fully aware of this process. He believes he is in love with the woman, but in truth he is encountering a part of himself he has not integrated. This dynamic is powerful and often destructive because projections, though compelling, are illusions. They do not reflect the true nature of the other person, and over time, the image shatters under the weight of reality. The woman who is being projected upon may feel this intuitively, a sense that she is being idealized, romanticized, or placed upon a pedestal. She may sense that the connection is less about who she is and more about what she represents to him psychologically. And yet such projections can be seductive. To be seen as the embodiment of someone's passion, soul, or salvation is a tempting role, but it is also a burden. If the man does not recognize this inner process, if he remains unconscious of his anima and continues to seek her externally, he remains caught in a cycle of longing and dissatisfaction. The more he chases the projection, the further he moves from his own inner development. The path of growth would require him to withdraw the projection, to face the inner feminine within himself, and to ask why these qualities are missing from his conscious life. But that is difficult work. It requires introspection, humility, and the courage to confront the self, not just the illusion of love in another's eyes. When we speak of a married man seeking another woman, we are often observing a drama that unfolds not only in the outer world, but within the deep recesses of the unconscious. At the heart of this drama lies the concept of the shadow, that hidden part of the psyche which contains all that the ego refuses to acknowledge. In every individual, the shadow holds repressed desires, fears, impulses, and weaknesses. It is not inherently evil, but it is often composed of those aspects of the self that are judged incompatible with one's conscious identity. For a man who identifies as loyal, rational, or moral, the shadow may contain his unacknowledged longings for freedom, passion, rebellion, or vulnerability. These disowned parts do not disappear, rather they gather energy in the unconscious, seeking expression. The married man, consciously devoted to duty and responsibility, may begin to feel the stirrings of restlessness, dissatisfaction, or yearning that he cannot easily explain. These feelings often do not arise because of external deficits in his marriage, but because of internal fragmentation. He has relegated parts of himself, perhaps his sensuality, spontaneity, or emotional depth, into the shadow in order to maintain the persona he believes he must embody. Yet the psyche does not tolerate repression indefinitely. The unconscious seeks balance and wholeness, and it will surface in the form of powerful desires, fantasies, or attractions that the ego cannot rationalize. When such a man encounters a woman who unconsciously resonates with his buried parts, who seems to awaken a vitality he thought was lost, the shadow finds a pathway to emerge. This emergence is not controlled or reasoned. It is impulsive, mysterious, and often disruptive. The man may become fascinated, obsessed, or irrationally drawn to her, believing that she is the answer to his inner emptiness. But in truth, it is his own shadow that he is meeting through her presence. She becomes the external vessel for his inner chaos, the living symbol of all that he has denied. In this way, the affair is not only a betrayal of his spouse, but a betrayal of himself, because he is not yet willing to engage the shadow directly, to integrate it consciously and responsibly. These unconscious desires are not inherently destructive. In fact, when acknowledged and explored, they can lead to profound self-awareness and transformation. But when denied or projected, they wreak havoc, not only in relationships, but in the soul of the man himself. He may oscillate between guilt and desire, shame and ecstasy, trapped in an inner conflict that no external relationship can resolve. The other woman, too, becomes entangled in a narrative that was never truly about her to begin with. She becomes a carrier of his disowned psychic material, caught in a dance she did not choreograph. The shadow, when left unconscious, distorts perception and drives behavior from behind the veil. It seeks the light not to destroy, but to be seen, to be known, and ultimately to be integrated into the fullness of the self. There exists a persistent illusion within the human psyche, the belief that another person can complete us, fill our inner void, and restore what we feel is missing within ourselves. This illusion is especially potent when a married man begins to seek out another woman. He often believes, though perhaps unconsciously, that she holds the key to his happiness, his vitality, his lost self. In reality, he is not seeking a real person, but an experience of wholeness that he imagines she can provide. This is the archetypal yearning for completion, but instead of turning inward toward integration of the self, he turns outward and projects that longing onto another human being. In the language of depth psychology, this is not love. It is projection in its most intoxicating form. The man may not understand what is happening within him. He may describe it as falling in love, as rediscovering life, as awakening after a long sleep. But these are symptoms of something deeper, the psyche attempting to restore balance by reaching for what has been lost or neglected within the self. It may be passion, joy, freedom, or authenticity. The woman he becomes drawn to serves as a symbol of those lost qualities, and in her presence he feels momentarily whole. The illusion is powerful because it feels true. She seems to light up his world. He may believe that she brings out the best in him, that he is more alive, more himself in her company. Yet he is not seeing her as she is. He is seeing her through the lens of unmet needs and unlived parts of himself. This pursuit is not limited to affairs or infidelity. It is a pattern that appears in all human relationships when individuals look to others to complete them. But in the context of a married man seeking another woman, it becomes especially charged, especially dangerous. The fantasy of completion leads him to neglect the truth of both relationships, the one he has and the one he is chasing. Neither can truly offer the wholeness he desires, because that wholeness can only be found within. What he truly needs is not another woman, but a confrontation with himself. He must ask what parts of his soul he has silenced, what dreams he has buried, what truths he has ignored in the construction of his adult life. The woman he pursues may also be vulnerable to this illusion. She too may feel desired, important, chosen, as though she holds something precious that another could not provide. But in reality, she may be stepping into a role written not by her, but by his unconscious. If she is not aware of this dynamic, she may begin to lose herself in the fantasy, confusing projection for real intimacy. This kind of relationship is often marked by intensity without depth, by emotion without clarity, because it is rooted not in reality but in the search for an internal completeness that no one else can offer. It cannot sustain itself. It is the illusion of wholeness, not its achievement. The more one invests in the fantasy, the further one drifts from the work that must be done within the soul itself. When we find ourselves caught in the emotional orbit of another person's inner struggle, we are faced with an ethical responsibility that extends beyond social conventions. In the case of a married man seeking another woman, it is not only his behavior that demands examination, but also the awareness of the woman who is being sought. Awareness is not passive. It is an active engagement with the truth of a situation, and with it comes a moral obligation, not imposed by society, but arising from the conscience that speaks when we are quiet enough to listen. This awareness does not condemn or shame, but calls us to ask deeper questions. Why am I being drawn into this? What am I representing to this person? Am I being seen clearly, or simply being used as a vessel for what he cannot face in himself? From a Jungian perspective, to be the object of projection is an archetypal event. You are no longer simply yourself. You have become a symbol in someone else's psychic drama. When a man who is already committed romantically seeks you out, it is likely that he is not responding to your true nature, but to an image, a figure from his inner world. You may symbolize passion, freedom, or rescue. This is the danger of unconscious projection. It distorts reality and entangles both individuals in a relationship built not on truth, but on unmet inner needs. The ethical responsibility here is not to blame the woman, but to recognize the position she has been placed in and the role she is being asked to play. Awareness means seeing this clearly and refusing to be seduced by the illusion. It is easy to feel special, even chosen, when someone risks everything to pursue you, but such feelings can cloud judgment. They can make you forget to ask the essential question: is this relationship rooted in reality or fantasy? Is he truly connecting with me or with a version of himself he wishes to recover? To act ethically is not to shame desire, but to respect its power and to meet it with consciousness. You must discern whether you are being invited into something whole or being asked to carry the weight of another person's unlived life. The more conscious a person becomes, the less they are driven by impulse, and the more they are able to hold space for their own inner contradictions. To be ethically responsible means not only asking what you want, but also what the consequences of your actions might be, for yourself, for the other, and for those unseen but inevitably affected. True awareness brings with it a quiet courage. It means being willing to step out of a fantasy that flatters the ego and into a reality that serves the soul. It means recognizing that sometimes the most compassionate act is not to return someone's desire, but to reflect it back to them with clarity, so that they might see themselves more truthfully. This is not judgment, it is integrity. The kind that allows both individuals to walk the path of inner growth rather than mutual escape. At the core of Jungian psychology lies the process of individuation, the journey toward becoming a whole, integrated self. It is not a path of perfection, but one of deep inner honesty and reconciliation with all the conflicting elements within the psyche. When a married man seeks another woman, this moment of conflict can serve as a powerful call to individuation if he is willing to face it consciously. The desire that arises, often perceived as romantic or passionate, is rarely about the other person alone. It is a symptom, a message from the unconscious, that something vital within the self has been neglected and it must now be acknowledged. This desire, if left unchecked or acted upon blindly, can become destructive. But if explored with moral integrity, it becomes the raw material for profound psychological growth. Moral integrity is not simply the adherence to societal rules or the avoidance of wrongdoing. It is an inner alignment between one's actions and one's deeper truth. It requires the individual to ask, what am I truly seeking? What need or longing lies beneath this attraction? What parts of myself have I abandoned in order to maintain a persona that no longer fits? The man in this situation must confront the discomfort of these questions without retreating into blame or fantasy. He must examine not only his marriage, but the state of his own soul. Has he been living authentically, or has he merely been performing the role of the good husband, the provider, the stable one, while ignoring the emotional or spiritual hunger within? The process of individuation demands that he bring into consciousness the parts of himself that have been relegated to the shadows. His capacity for spontaneity, sensuality, or even vulnerability. But bringing them to light does not mean indulging them recklessly. It means integrating them into his life in a way that honors both his inner truth and his external commitments. This is where moral integrity becomes essential. Acting out a desire without understanding it only deepens the split within the self. But holding that desire in awareness, examining it, learning from it, that is the alchemy of individuation.